scheduling. But anyway, I'm James Bussell. I'm the executive director of the Jacksonville Lean Consortium, aka Lean Jax in Jacksonville, Florida. And we're a consortium of companies and organizations trying to apply lean thinking to their operations and throughout their whole cultures of their organizations. Right now, we have 14 member organizations and 8 individuals, and we are growing. And one of the things I've done in the past year, has throughout the United States been reaching out to people, lean thought leaders and experts in different fields in the field of continuous improvement. And I came across Nick, and we had a meeting and talked about how Nick was trying to do some more webinars to show his expertise and to spread the important topic of lean accounting. So I'm just thrilled on behalf of the Jacksonville Lean Consortium to have Nick presenting for us today.
All right, thanks a lot, James. And I'd like to thank you, James. In fact, I think that I may have met your father and worked with your
I'm pretty
father
proud.
at, where was this?
I'm not sure,
In
but
Jacksonville, met medical.
maybe did you go to the AME or the Shingo?
No, it was a, I forgot the name of the company, but
You worked at Medtronic.
Medtronic, that's it. Yeah. So anyway, that's sort of interesting how this whole
Yeah.
lean community works and you find people and stuff like that. Okay, so um, let me share my screen. We'll get started with the webinar. I gotta find, and I'm gonna close the video. Now, um, for any of you who are watching the recording, obviously you can't download the presentation. So just send an email to my email address that you see, and I'll be happy to send you a copy of the presentation. And as I mentioned, this is going to be recorded later today. I will get it up onto my YouTube channel. James, I'll share a link with you. I'll also share a link with everyone who attended, and you can feel free to share the recording with as many people as you want. I'm calling this a webinar, but it's really a little bit interactive because your traditional webinars are 1 hour. This is an hour and a half. And what I want to do is have discussion, questions, and answers. There is an element that I am going to ask you some questions. And it's not going to be a polling questions, but I'm going to ask you questions about what you think about certain things. And I'd like you to put your answers into the chat, and I'll look at the chat and we'll talk a little bit. And by the way, if you want to ask questions live, you all have the capability of unmuting yourself and ask. And please feel free to do that. You can just unmute yourself and say, Nick, I have a question, and we'll take care of it. Okay. All right, let's get started. So what would I like you to learn today? First of all, in terms of connecting continuous improvement to the bottom line, numbers drive decision making. And I like to call this lean financial thinking. And it's about understanding how the lean accounting box scores drive the lean financial thinking. I want you to learn how to understand how to apply box score analysis to some types of improvement events, and you should be able to explain the components of a box score. All right, lean financial thinking. I'm a practicing certified public accountant. I've been a CFO. I have my accounting background. And, and even in the coaching and consulting I do, I get involved in a lot of understanding decision making in companies. And I always find the decision-making process, analysis and decision-making process interesting in the fact that sometimes groups of people or just the way, sort of the company culture it's sort of there's so I'm going to say bad habits are baked in to culture. For example, tell me if any of you have experienced this, where you're in a room with people and you're trying to do an analysis and make a decision, and the person with the highest rank in the room pulls rank and says, well, this is what I think, or this is what I think we should do. And it shuts down any further discussion or analysis. Then there's the idea of experience, which is similar to rank in the room in the fact that, well, I've been working in this job for 20 years and, I have experience in these decisions. Another sort of example is the way an industry works. That this is the way, like benchmarking in industries, or this is the industry norms, or either also company lore, LORE. This is the way we do things in this company. And then there's finally what I would consider sort of like worst case scenario is what people just don't believe the numbers. Here's the analysis, here's what it shows, here's the assumptions. It can't be that way. Something's wrong here. Okay. I don't know if any of you experienced that. I'm just interested in seeing that. You can just do some thumbs up or something like that. Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. So here's financial thinking in general. Numbers drive thinking habits. People be, people who have to analyze and make decisions get very, very comfortable with numbers and then mental models. Okay. And the thinking drives behavior, meaning assumptions or actions. Those behaviors drive the outcomes of the decisions, and the decisions drive the numbers. So this is like a self-reinforcing cycle. And the best way to show this and how things change with continuous improvement is a simple example. All right. So, continuous improvement event, reducing change over time. So here we have the current state where the changeover time is 120 minutes. There's 2 changeovers per day, 20 working days in the month. So the total time spent on changeovers over the course of a month is 4,800 minutes. An improvement event is done. And, really good. Changeover time goes from 120 minutes to 15 minutes. It only consumes 600 minutes a month. So the improvement, as you see, is 105 minutes per changeover or 4,200 minutes per month. Now, a traditional approach to analyzing this type of improvement event is to understand the impact on cost. So here's just a simple way that it would be done. Calculate the cost savings. Okay. So we know that, for example, the labor rate is $30 per hour. So there's, 4,200 minutes per month. You convert that to hours, you multiply by 30, you get $2,100 of cost savings in a month. So my first question to you, when will that cost savings show up on the income statement of the company? So you can type your answers in the chat.
Chat is disabled on my side.
Who's speaking there?
It's Gerard or Gerard.
All right.
Yeah, it's also disabled on my side.
All right, hold on one second. Alan, I got you. I'm trying to.
Yeah, my chat is disabled.
Okay. Well, you know what? You can give me your answers.
Usually, cost savings is never visible on improvement,
Okay.
I agree.
All right.
but over time you can see the financials improve and you can see production improve.
Anybody else have any ideas?
Nick, I'm not an accountant, but from my perspective, from lean problem solving, if you view the change over time as a problem, you would set a target by identifying the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and then that gap can be reflected as a cost saving, and you could actually calculate that. I'm not sure how that, as I say, I'm not an accountant, but
Right.
that's just from my perspective.
Yeah. Well, your comments are all very good. My question was, when will it show up on the P&L as cost savings? And the answer is never. A few of you even said that, because, and I'm going to show you why in a second. But this frustrates a lot of people involved in lean and continuous improvement. And I've worked in companies where corporate says all continuous improvement must show cost savings. And that's sort of the traditional financial analysis. Oh, somebody, yeah, okay. So,
Yeah, we got,
go ahead.
no, I was just going to say we had somebody come through in the chat.
Okay. Well, when you do it in the meeting, when you do a Zoom meeting, all this stuff is open. When you do a webinar, it's all closed. I should have looked at the settings, but we can still talk, so that's okay. All right, so this leads me to my first point about connecting continuous improvement to the bottom line, and that is what is known as the economics of lean. How does lean work financially? If you do continuous improvement, another way people say that is eliminate waste, reduce waste. What you get, the primary outcome of a continuous improvement event or a series of, the primary outcome, but not the only, is creating capacity or time. And you could just see this in this example. You save 105 minutes per changeover, 4,200 minutes a month. That's capacity. The actual financial impact is what you do with that capacity. For example, if you use that capacity to deliver value, there's the opportunity to grow revenue, grow sales. You can also use the capacity to achieve cost reduction over time. And that leads to the financial success of continuous improvement. But this is a change in thinking. Many people call lean a time-based strategy. And this is why. Okay. And intuitively, I think a lot of people that are involved in continuous improvement understand this. They may have a hard time explaining it, especially to non-lean people like in finance or senior management that really don't understand what continuous improvement is about at a detailed level, except it's about waste elimination. So let's look at this same example through the lens of lean accounting. So we have our current state, future state, and the improvement. So the lean accounting approach, we've created available capacity of 4,200 minutes per month. So the question is, what can we do with that available capacity? That will give you the true financial impact. So we have available capacity. The first question that could be asked is their demand to sell more units, produce and sell more units. So let's assume the answer is yes. So how many more units can we produce? Well, the cycle time is 10 minutes a unit. We have 4,200 minutes. We can produce 420 units more per month. What's the financial impact of that? The financial impact is the contribution margin. Okay, the sales price, let's say it's 500. The material cost is 300, so the contribution margin is 200. So $84,000 of contribution margin per month is the financial impact of this continuous improvement event. Does this make sense to people? And by the way, when would this contribution margin show up on the financial statements? As soon as you start selling the product, right? So let me ask another question, and you can turn your audio on to answer it. Let's say that is there demand to sell more? Let's say the answer is no. Okay. Is this continuous improvement event still beneficial, and why would it be beneficial?
Could you repeat that again one more time?
All right. So let's say, the lean accounting approach, we have available capacity. Is there demand to sell more? Let's say the answer is no. So what's the operational benefit of this improvement event? Or what do you think would be the operational improvement? We're still reducing change over time. What do we get out of it? What could we get out of it?
We get standard processing time or standard production time.
Yes, that's good.
And that can improve quality.
Okay. Anybody else have any ideas?
Well, you can always use extra capacity, so to speak, whether it's simply cycle counting inventory or doing additional 5S, additional recycling. There's lots of ways to use extra labor hours.
Right.
And you get them free in a sense.
Yeah, that's a very important point. How about improving on-time delivery and reducing lead times?
Yep.
Even, for existing customers, that's good. So, it's important. Here's the thing, and it's a theme that we'll talk about throughout. It's really, really important for not just for the operational people or the lean people or the continuous improvement leaders to understand the total impact of continuous improvement. It's important for others in the company, accounting, finance. And let's say that on-time delivery and lead time could be improved. What would be another part of the company that would be could be very, very interested in this? Another function.
The sales department.
The sales department, yes. 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 I'm looking at some of the Q&A. Okay, Q&A is working. Okay, great. Yeah. All right. All right. So there's the examples of changing thinking, thinking about the economics of lean. And really connecting continuous improvement to the bottom line means This thinking needs to be baked into the way to thinking habits of people. And I think that's the hard part about this, because people, like I said, people are comfortable with the numbers they've been using. And it takes practice, it takes repetition, and it takes reinforcement. I need to write that down. Practice, repetition, and reinforcement. Sometimes I say things during webinars. I say, I got to remember to say that all the time. Practice, repetition, and reinforcement on this thinking process with the numbers. So what can happen? I'm going to put all these up. I like to say that in relation to continuous improvement, whether it's one event or a series of events, anything related to continuous improvement, there's 6 possible outcomes to improving financial performance. One, you can increase sales without increasing fixed costs. That's the example I just showed you, where $84,000 of contribution margin hits, right? You can reduce fixed costs as a percentage of sales. And that it would be a possible other outcome of this. For example, if you're selling more and your labor cost stays the same, your labor cost as a percentage of sales is going down. You have opportunities to reduce variable costs and improve contribution margin. For example, if you improve quality, you reduce your scrap, that reduces your material cost. If you reduce your inventory, that reduces your actual material cost. You can increase capacity without increasing costs. The example I just showed you, that's another example. We increase the capacity on the machine without increasing cost. You can improve performance, increase capacity, you can improve cash flow. All of these are possible outcomes. Not all 6 for every event or every series of events, but this is how you want people to start thinking. So let's look at another example. Okay, and I'm going to pose a question to you. So we have a value stream that sells 1,000 units at a price of 200. So you see the numbers per month of revenue, material cost, production cost, and profit. Okay, 10% return. So using continuous improvement, you free up 20% more capacity, and you can now sell 1,200 units per month. What's the new monthly profit? And you can calculate this by everything you need to calculate. You can do this. You can do this on your phone or on a calculator but I wanted to get some ideas. What do you think the new monthly profit is? And I will look, if you want to open up your mics, that's fine. I will also look at if I can get to the Q&A. Oop, gave you the answer. If you want to type your answer in Q&A, you can also do that. Anybody have any ideas?
$60,000.
Okay. Anybody else have any ideas?
That I would be wrong on 60. I didn't account for increased materials in production.
Okay. Here's the answer. It's 36.
There we go. Thank you.
So again, what changes with the volume? You have more sales. The material cost is variable, and that goes up proportionately, 200 more units. And the production costs stay the same because you have capacity. So what happens is you increase revenue 20%, you increase profits by 80%. There's a, yeah,
Yep.
okay. Yeah, somebody typed in the Q&A the 36 profit. This is sort of the financial leverage of lean and continuous improvement. And it's what way back when in the 1990s, when I was CFO of a manufacturing company, we did a very classical lean implementation, lean transformation. And we saw tremendous benefits very fast in the space of a couple of years. And this is what I would see financially. And it really made me, personally, it made me a believer in the financial impact of lean. And I'm always very, very happy that, and thankful that my first exposure to lean and continuous improvement I learned it the right way. And it made me a believer, and then also made me a believer in how to analyze things and got me on the lean accounting journey. So let me just stop right here because I'm about to move into another section. Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask or anything they'd like to discuss before we move on to the box score? Is this making sense, logical to everyone so far?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So we talked about thinking and driving thinking habits. So I want to spend a little time on the box score, which are really the numbers that when used in continuous improvement and analyzing lean in decision analysis and decision making really drive the right thinking habits. So, I'm going to give you a little summary here, then we'll talk about each component. There's 3 components to a box score. One are lean performance, value stream performance measurements. The other component is a value stream income statement. The third is capacity measurements. And what the box score does is it gives you visibility into the dynamic relationships between operating performance, capacity performance, and financial performance. Now, for the most part, you improve operating performance, you improve capacity performance, you will eventually see improvement in value stream performance. Okay, I always say, if you want to improve financial performance, you got to change something operationally. It's operational financial performance doesn't improve just because senior leadership says they want it to improve, or just because you put a budget out there that says this is what we expect to do financially. You got to do things operationally to get there. And the operational changes need to be improvements. Okay. And what you're going to see as we go on is that, I talked about the 6 possible outcomes of continuous improvement. If you use a box score, you will naturally think through those 6 possible outcomes. So let me break down the box score a little bit. And by the way, box scores are deployed at the value stream level. I have a note there that value streams are the profit centers of lean companies. You think about it, it's not business units, it's not departments, it's value streams. Why? Because, value streams are order fulfillment value streams. You receive an order, you ship the product, or you deliver the service. And so all of the actions that go into all of the actions from receiving an order to shipping the product or delivering the service are related to serving the customer. And lean companies organize, manage, and improve by value stream. Value streams, and some of you may be familiar with this, value streams are horizontal across the organization. They're not vertical. Okay. And so the idea is to coordinate the work to serve the customer and deliver the value that they want. So in terms of lean performance measurements, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. Some of you may be using these. If you think about three primary goals of lean and continuous improvement, one is to serve customers better, another is to improve process performance, and a third is respect for people. And so if you want to serve customers better, typically what you measure is delivery, quality, and lead times. And what's the goal through continuous improvement? Improve on-time delivery. You want to strive for perfect quality. You want to reduce lead times. And, the challenge in lean companies is these are the challenges that lean companies sort of accept. How can we achieve on-time delivery, consistent on-time delivery, and short lead times regardless of the demand? I work with one company right now where, if the demand gets high, they just extend lead times out. And then they're still on time, but the lead times are out. Now the customers accept it. They don't like it, but they accept it. And I've talked to them. I said, how could you do both at the same time? Then there's quality. How can you be assured that when the product goes out your door, or the service has been completed, that the quality is what the customer expects, and you're not going to get phone calls from customers about quality? Improving process performance. If you're in manufacturing, you're trying to improve the material flow time and reduce it. Okay. If you're not in manufacturing, you're still trying to reduce your flow times of the service. It's sort of like it's sort of the lead time of the service, or it could be the information flow. You're trying to improve productivity, improving the output with the same resources and reducing costs over time. Respect for people is about like safety and morale. And there's various measures on that. So I'm just curious, how many of you, I always say that these are the 8 categories of measurements that any company should strive to measure at the value stream level. Now, the exact calculation might be a little bit different, but you should strive. And so I'm just wondering, how many people, in their companies measured all 8 categories on a consistent basis?
We don't measure all 8. We actually measure 5.
Okay.
And I think under the delivery, we compressed lead time, material flow, and productivity.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just using safety, quality, delivery, cost, and the human development.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else want to comment?
Well, we always said that there's no trade-offs between safety, quality, and productivity,
Mm-hmm.
and made that our mantra and worked toward that goal.
That's really good, and you made an important point there, Alan, is that there are no trade-offs. You know, a lot of times with traditional measurements, companies do trade-offs. Well, we can do this and work on this, but we can't do this at the same time. The challenge is how do you focus on all 8 of these or however many you have at the same time? And, you know, I'm not going to talk much more about performance measurements, but the idea of performance measurements is to drive problem solving. And so, how do we improve on-time delivery and reduce lead times without having finished goods inventory, for example? Okay. So good points. So the second part of a value stream box score is what is called the value stream income statement. Now, I mentioned that value streams are considered the profit centers of lean companies. So therefore, you can calculate an income statement. Now, this is an internal managerial report. This is not something that is sent outside of the company. Okay. It's very important to understand. So, what does a value stream income statement framework look like? You want to understand the direct variable cost and calculate contribution margin. And what you see here is some examples. So, in a manufacturing organization, your direct or actual variable costs would be raw materials, possibly supplies, outside processing if you have it, and this company included sales commissions because they truly vary with sales. Now, some companies would exclude sales commissions, saying that, the actual value stream team has no control over that. Okay, that's fair. And again, I'm explaining a framework here, not like you have to include these expenses and these lines. It doesn't work that way. Okay. Every company has to create their own value stream income statement that works for them. You want to then understand the actual direct fixed costs of the value stream. So that would be the people that work in the value stream, labor and benefits. It could be all of the actual machine costs, and there might be some other. But, these are costs which are in the value stream and can be readily identified. The other piece is calculating shared costs. So in every company with multiple value streams, there are some costs or activities that are shared between value streams. One can be the facilities, okay? Another can be shared production costs. For example, if you have a production monument. So like in some companies, you have a production monument at the beginning where you're cutting and fabricating all of the component parts that are used in the value streams. In other cases, Like this one company I work at, they have a paint booth. So different products from different value streams go through the paint booth. Okay. Another example is like heat treating or anodizing, things like that, where all the component parts are heat treated. That's a shared production cost. And then you have support labor. For example, you may have things like engineering or quality or maintenance, which support all the value streams. And with the shared operating costs, what you want to do is create what I would call a simple way to assign these costs. You don't want to track time. Okay. It's just a simple assignment. Now, the value stream income statement, again, I said it's up to the company to decide. For example, I've worked with some companies that they stop at the value stream operating margin line, and they say we don't want to assign or allocate any shared costs. Doesn't make sense to us. That's fine. Other companies decide they want to do that because from a decision-making standpoint, you want to understand what the value stream operating profit looks like. But typically, the value stream operating margin, that's the value stream team's responsibility. The value stream operating profit is more the company's responsibility. Any questions about value stream income statement?
I'm good.
Okay. The third piece of a box score is measuring capacity. And there's three measurements of capacity. One is productive, and it's really just the percentage of the total time spent on value-added activities. Non-productive capacity is the total time spent on all the non-value-added activities, both necessary and wasteful. Available capacity is how much are we creating through continuous improvement. So you take total available capacity. You have productive, subtract non-productive, you get available. So what happens through continuous improvement? Your non-productive capacity goes down, is reduced through continuous improvement. You create the available capacity. That's the changeover example I showed you. And then eventually, using that same example, if you can use that available capacity to produce and sell more, you're turning it into productive capacity. I could do a whole class just on the capacity measurement systems and methods to calculate, but we can do that another time. So that's the box score. Anybody have any questions? Because it drives the 6 structured questions. So if you're looking at continuous improvement, what's the impact on operational performance? What's the impact on capacity? What's the impact on sales? What's the impact on variable costs and contribution margin? What's the impact on fixed costs? What's the impact on profitability and cash? So, looking at a box score, you're doing a continuous improvement event. You take out the current state box score. And, typically an improvement, a major Kaizen event, for example, I'm not talking about sort of the small just do it improvements, but any planned improvement event, there's some you think about what do we think we're going to get out of making this improvement. Now, it could be as simple as saying, well, on-time delivery is 81%, and we need to improve that. Okay, great. You know what that impact you would like it to be. Then you have to, you could recalculate capacity. And then if you've created capacity, what are we going to do with it? So the numbers drive the thinking habits, and it forces everyone to think through this. Now, I'm not stating that every improvement event was going to have a specific impact on every part of the box score. All right. So anyway, couple questions, which I want to stop. So this goes back to the value stream income statement, and Robert posted it a few minutes ago. How is the value stream income statement different from the usual income statement? One, it's at the value stream level. Number two is you only do the actual costs. And three is that you want to avoid cost allocations. Those are the three main differences between, and typically companies don't do value stream income statements. They just do it at the company level. And then Andrew had a question for a construction company. Do you recommend putting subcontractors with materials to calculate a contribution margin or with direct costs? That's a good question, and I've never been asked that before. And I would say if you consider the subcontractor cost fixed or variable, meaning that do the subcontractors have to hit their target, or are they allowed to go over, because of cost overruns? I think you could do it either way. Again, the thing about a value stream income statement is you create, and even a box score, you create a format and you give it a try, practicing, measuring, analyzing continuous improvement. And the more that you use the box score or the value stream income statement, the more you understand if you need to make changes. It's not about creating the perfect box score on day one. It's about creating a working box score, understanding how it's being used, understand, is it driving the analysis that we want? And if it is, fine. If it's not, then where are the gaps? So let's see, there's another question here. Let me call it up. All right. Is it okay as a lean department to put together a box score as part of our quarterly report, even if the company is not familiar with it? That's a really interesting question. It's probably good. So that people understand what the lean department is doing. I often say that there's a lot of people, it depends on the size of the company, but there's a lot of people that don't understand the details of why it's important to do certain continuous improvement events. But one thing people understand is moving numbers, and when people understand if numbers get better or numbers get worse. So that's the benefit of putting together a box score. And as part of your quarterly report, because again, you could say, we improved on-time delivery this much, we improved this, and people can see, here's everything we did. Here are the events. Here's why. Or here's the outcome of the events. Because again, people can get lost in the details of continuous improvement events, especially if you do report outs. And especially if you're talking to like owners or executives, they want to know the end result first. They don't want to be sort of, don't give me all the details and then tell me what happened. Start with the end. Tell me, here's what we accomplished, and here's how we accomplished it. You will get them to pay attention more. But if you start with a report out of a continuous improvement event and you talk about this and that and this and that, and these people are sitting there saying, this is not a movie where what's the dramatic end to the movie? Tell me the end and then explain to me the plot. You see what I'm saying? All right, so here's an example. And we're going to get into a few examples here. So time to put your thinking caps on. So here we have improvements are made in on-time delivery, 92 to 94%, in quality, 71 to 78%, and in inventory, which is dock-to-dock days, days of inventory went down from 33 days to 18.5. The value stream income statement, just based on these continuous improvement events, the only change is that you see a reduction in material cost because you reduced inventory and you improved quality and reduced scrap. The tremendous benefit has been creating capacity, creating more available capacity both in the people and the machines. So my question to you is, what do you think would be the best available use of this capacity? Again, there's no right or wrong answers, and I will share some options with you. So again, you can type in the Q&A or just turn your mic on and let me know what you think. What would you do with that available capacity to see a financial benefit?
Make sure the sales department knew we had more capacity.
Yeah, that's true. Anyone else?
Depending how much capacity you might want to offer a special deal to a special customer.
Yeah. Andrew in the Q&A says sell more of our cherry jobs. Good. Yeah.
Just like you said earlier, if there's no sales to be made, you can improve and you have substantial capacity. There's one thing you can do. You can make that presentation to the team, and that boosts up team members' morale, and
Yeah.
that would give us more opportunity in terms of commitment to quality.
Yeah. Robert said cross training of workers. Good. Again, there's no right or wrong answers here. This is more of a thinking exercise.
You can use the increased time to have more or longer continuous improvement meetings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, let me on the flip side, I have seen where we have substantial capacity and it became like a waste because people were laying around. How do we deal with such?
Well, I think that gets to starting with the leadership of the company and them understanding what lean is, what lean isn't, what it means, both in the short term and in the long term. And what does it mean, if we are conducting regular continuous improvement events? It goes back to like the economics of lean. Okay, we're going to conduct improvement events, and you might even be able to explain what you're going to work on. we're going to be creating this capacity. We need to have a plan to use that capacity. Now, the best plan is to grow the business. So then the question is, back to the leadership of the company, you know, can we create a competitive advantage through continuous improvement, for example, by simply reducing lead times and improving on-time delivery? I mean, that's sort of what I experienced as a CFO, because we ended up with the shortest lead times and the highest on-time delivery compared to our competitors, and customers bought more from us for those two reasons. So again, it's that kind of discussion which has to go on, and it's a continual discussion. Hope that answers your question. So here's just some examples. Okay, you know, you've created that available capacity. You can move it from one value stream to another. And you can see the highlights of the red boxes. You know, you can reduce the conversion costs in the value stream. You're transferring the people to another value stream where they're needed. You can increase sales. That is the best opportunity here. This company also looked at insourcing sub-assemblies, because what they did, if they ran out of capacity, is they had some local suppliers who could produce their products. Okay. So again, these are just some examples of options for using that available capacity. The more that box scores are used in the business, the more that people start thinking like this, and what are the different options? Because there's not, you know, in some traditional financial analysis, you only have one choice, you know, but here you have different options, especially because you're dealing with capacity, you're dealing with time. What can we do with our time? All right, so let's do a few more. So this is planning continuous improvement events. So put yourself in the position of being a value stream manager or part of a value stream team. So if you see here on the left side, there's 7% available capacity. So through strategy deployment, or Ho-Shin, the leaders of the company want that available capacity percentage to increase to 20%, which means you can see all the non-value added time here. This is in minutes. So that means 17,750 minutes of non-productive time need to be eliminated through continuous improvement. So what improvements would you suggest? Again, no right or wrong answers. So you can type your answers into the Q&A, or just verbally explain what you would do.
Like I've always pushed my team here to do, I would focus on my inspection and downtime, because those have the higher time. So what I usually do in the process is actually for BIQ, right? Built-in quality. And that has to do with the standard work train and all that. Then for the downtime, I usually let them know that we have to actually deal with the TPM structure, which we are still struggling with today. I strongly believe in the first pillar, the autonomous maintenance, that reduces downtime. Mm-hmm. And at the beginning of the year, with the knowledge of the facility and maintenance team, they should be able to have a proper PM calendar, so that everyone in the production line have a full knowledge of when a PM is going to be,
Yeah.
and they can work towards that. So that's what I
Great.
usually
Any,
promote.
anybody else have any ideas?
Well, I always think that any step you can take to reduce scrap and rework uh, pays for itself multiple times. Not just replacing a piece that's broken, but rather also not having to replace it. That is to go get one or have somebody bring one to a line or something like that. There's lots of little costs that we don't think about
Mm-hmm.
that add up when there's
Right.
it's not just the cost of that piece
Yeah.
that's it's time that everything takes time, and rework takes usually twice the amount, over twice the amount of time.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So here's just some examples. I worked this out on a template. There's I have a capacity calculating template, which is, it's an Excel file. And by the way, it is free. If you want to get one, all you got to do is email me, and you can do something like this. You can do current state, future state. So, you know, you know, so I said, well, we're going to reduce the scrap rate from 20% to 15%. We're going to, and because we're doing that through quality at the source, we can reduce our inspection rate, and we can also reduce downtime. And somebody mentioned this earlier when you were explaining your thoughts. The primary waste, it, the you want to target the non-productive that consumes the most time, like downtime. You reduce downtime by 10%, you're going to get a whole lot more time than if you like focused on the changeover time. So again, that's really the thinking. And you can also see here that there are some benefits to the improvement, or financial benefits to the improvement. You reduce materials, you reduce repairs and maintenance, so you pick up, almost $6,000 a month in profit just through these continuous improvement events. Let's look at increasing sales. All right, so this is a little different way to think about continuous improvement. So up here, where number of units shipped, upper right-hand corner, second line. So the monthly demand is currently 4,875 units a month. It's going to go to 6,000 units in 3 to 4 months. That's the sales projection, and the sales team is very confident that that's what's going to happen. So if you plug that 6,000 units in and recalculate capacity, you don't have enough. Your capacity is now negative. So the question would be, what could you do to create capacity to meet the demand? And we'd like to be at a 7% positive available capacity percentage. So what are some things you could do?
Why wouldn't we just start with the first, the list we just made?
Yeah, you can start with, you can say we'll do continuous improvement. What's the real question though?
The real question would be, how long does it take to produce 1 unit of that?
Okay, how long does it take to produce a unit? But in terms
Which is
of, go ahead.
which is the takt time, And once we're able to define the takt time, we check what would we have currently in terms of capacity. Then
Yeah,
we should be able to know
yeah,
how much more capacity we need, then look into the waste that
yeah,
we currently have and see where we can do improvements.
yeah. I mean, I think the cycle time in this example, if I remember right, is like the cycle time to produce one unit is 10 minutes. So, you'd have to find a way to reduce that cycle time,
Yeah.
which is not always the easiest thing to do, especially, it's because you have standard way to build a product. But in terms of the continuous improvement events, that's what's the question that you would ask or that should be asked?
What is happening?
Yeah, but we have this demand that's going to be coming in 3 to 4 months. So what would you ask about the continuous improvement events? Can they be completed in time?
Oh, okay. That's a good
Right?
one. Yes, yes, yes.
Because sometimes sometimes you don't get what you think out of continuous improvement events, but it's again, and so what can you do? One thing is you could just hire 4 people.
Yeah.
You see what happens to your profit, it goes down. You could make improvements, and again, if you can make similar improvements to the previous example in time, you're going to increase your profits from 31,600 to almost 40,000 in a month. That's good. And again, it might be a combination of things. You could say, well, could we work overtime? Could we hire temporary people and get them trained and use them until the continuous improvement events are in place? So there's many different choices here. It's not just one. Okay, I'm gonna show you one more, then we'll wrap up. And this is a little more complicated, but even though I have a question, this question came from um a class I did where people had the spreadsheet and could make the changes. So you don't have to do anything here, but here's a company requires a 15% standard margin on products. A customer would like to buy 3,000 units of a Pro Valve 602 at a certain price, 45 per unit. But the minimum price to achieve the 15% margin is 50. And there is not enough capacity to meet this demand. So do you make it? Do you buy it? Do you not do anything? So there's the current state. Okay. You could outsource. There is an option. You could outsource, have that made, sell it for 45 a unit. What changes? You can see everything in red here gets a little bit worse because you're outsourcing.
Correct.
You
It's going
know,
to cost you 50.
right. And you will make more money. Your sales go up, your margin goes up, your software's your cost goes up. Or you can do continuous improvement and make it in-house. In that case, you will make much, much more money. So again, make or buy decisions can be related to continuous improvement. What I
If I may ask,
Sure.
could you go back one slide? Okay.
Yeah.
So the future state in-house continuous improvement would be decision based on time to complete, right?
Yes.
As against outsourcing.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Or here's the other thing, and I talked about this in a webinar I did last week. I learned this. as a CFO. And I always talk, whenever I'm coaching a company and working with people, I always talk about this. The position you really want to be in is you want to be creating capacity through continuous improvement at a steady rate, and almost, at a rate at least equal to or greater than what you think your sales growth rate will be, because then you can take anything on. If you're creating the capacity and you get an opportunity like this, okay, so 45 per unit, and let's just say this bullet point, let's say there is enough capacity to meet this demand. You would take the order because the only cost is going to be the contribution margin. The only thing you have to consider is this special price. Is this a one-time order? Would other customers find out about this price? Things like that. And I always say, from a strategic standpoint, and this is the way we set things up at the company I worked in. We set 20% continuous improvement target a year, which means we were creating 20% capacity, which means we could take on any sales opportunity, and there were many of them that met our minimum contribution margin. It made the life of sales and marketing very, very easy, because all they had to do was know the contribution margin to prepare a quote, and if the price was acceptable to the customer and it met our minimum contribution margin, we accepted the order. Life was very, very simple. So where can you use box scores? There's endless uses of a box score. If you're doing value stream mapping, you create a future state value stream map, you can create a projected future state box score. We talked about continuous improvement activities. I tried to show you some examples of operational planning, demand and resources. When do we have to hire people? When do we have to buy some equipment? What happens if our sales goes up? You can use it in forecasting and budgeting. You can use it to understand the financial impact of orders. You can even use it to determine if a certain price that a customer wants is a profitable price or not. So the opportunities are, I would say, endless. Just remember, what we're looking at is cause and effect. Improve operating performance, improve capacity performance, that drives improved financial performance. And the box score is the way you connect continuous improvement to the bottom line. So a couple wrap-up slides. This picture you see on the right, the company that I worked with, one time we were having a big discussion, and I said what you see printed out there. And and I said, if you use the right numbers, everything else works out. They were having a big discussion about some kind of decision. I said, just get the right numbers. And the owner of the company was like, that's really, really good. And we were doing this via an online meeting. And then the next time I went to visit the company, he had this poster up all over the place. Anyway, and then these quotes here are from my friend Jamie Flinchbaugh, who's a well-known author about people solve problems, and he's also written a few other books. And he was talking to me one time about lean accounting and box scores. And he said, you make decisions differently using the numbers, even if the outcomes of the decisions are the same. And the box score forces you to ask different questions that highlight the ability to look at information in different ways. So lean financial thinking, connecting continuous improvement to the bottom line. The numbers are the box score. You're thinking the lean relationships between financial performance, operating performance. Your behavior, I use PDCA. Any analysis or any decision you make is trying to solve a problem. You do a projection. You say, well, here's an opportunity. Let's do a future state projection. Your problem you're trying to solve is how do we actually get to that future state? And it's based on assumptions. We know what the numbers need to look like, then how do we get there? I like to say a lean management accounting system. This is my take on it, my take on the Toyota house. You're trying to improve the quality of decision making. The box score is the relevant, reliable information that's understandable, useful, and timely, valid and verifiable. The foundation, economics of lean and lean thinking. And box scores connect companies. The more that you get different functions looking at the same numbers, people will start thinking the same. That's the beauty of the box scores. And, if you're interested in, how do you get started with lean accounting? It's really no different than lean. You've got to create awareness through training and education, build desire. What's the current state of our management accounting system? What do we want the future state to look like? Demonstrate, conduct pilots. And that's where I work with a lot of companies where they want to get started. And I say, okay, we're going to build a box score for one value stream, and we're going to practice using it. And when people see a real box score that are their numbers, then it starts really sinking in. And then after you conduct pilots, you standardize your work, you do coaching, and you improve that management accounting system. So, that wraps things up. We have a few minutes for questions. If you want to learn more, there's my YouTube channel, and I will post a recording to that YouTube channel. I'll also send an email out to everyone with that link to that specific, but I have lots of different videos there. I have lean accounting certification courses, which are available. Obviously, the books are for sale. And then if you go to my events page, you'll see you can stay tuned to future events. And again, if you sign up on my website to join the mailing list, you'll get all the emails that I send out. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and just bring everybody back together. Anybody have any questions, comments about this?
I wish somebody had told me about this in about 1988 when we were trying to go just in time, and my accounting, our financial VP was. I was the VP of manufacturing, but our accounting VP was banging me about the head and shoulders because his numbers started to get skewed by the way I was using people and so forth. But I was doing what the talented engineers at Coopers and Lybrand taught me to do.
Yeah. Yeah,
Thank you very much, Nick. This was extremely interesting.
Great. I'm
Nick?
glad you enjoyed it.
Nick, I would say, first off, this is mind blowing, sincerely. I follow you on YouTube. And let me just confess, I'm just a believer of your work,
Thanks.
and it's helped me, and it has exposed me a whole lot. And trust me, I'm going to jump on so many other things, and I'm going to recommend to the company so that I can have maybe sections with the executives and leadership, just for them to have an eye opener to some of the things that we are not taking into consideration.
Yeah.
I'm an accountant by
Oh,
my course. Yeah, I'm an accountant, and currently I'm in the lean LPS department, right, for lean performance system. So I'm trying to see how to become a manufacturer. So I'm trying to see how to put all of this together to make sense for the team, because we just started adopting the lean thinking and lean manufacturing systems, right? So
great.
I'm trying to put the whole company in that lean thinking part. So I'll tell you, this is great, and I am grateful for being here.
Great.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. James,
Yeah.
you want to add?
Nick, I just want to thank you. This was outstanding, and something I'm going to share with everybody I know doing this, and because I just think it's a huge missing piece, and the thing that really resonated with me is to learn how to do these box scores, do them in a single value stream, have your pilots, and then be able to spread it. I think is very impactful. And this is something I encourage everyone either listening to this live or that's listening to this recording. Learn this stuff, study this stuff, get Nick's books. I mean, they're outstanding, and listen, be able to follow you on your YouTube channel and different things, because I think this is just a missing piece in a lot of continuous improvement implementations.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's when you start showing people numbers, they understand numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, on-time delivery goes from 81% to 92%. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to know any more than that. If you can do that, through continuous improvement, and you're not going to fire people, do it.
Yep.
And what I see for top leadership, pitching continuous improvement makes it a lot easier if you can show them the numbers.
And
Yes,
correct. I've been doing this for, really box scores for 25 years, lean accounting for over 30 years, but all the companies I've been lucky enough to work with over the years, if they really established box scores, they keep using them.
Yeah.
It just becomes the numbers to use. They don't all of a sudden say, "Oh, we're going to stop," because if you're doing continuous improvement the right way and you're using the box scores, they become linked, and and you force new people into the organization. If new people come in the organization, they have to learn the box scores and how you use it. You're not going to allow like a new finance person to come in and say, well, this is the way I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
No, this is the way we do it here.
Yeah, you quickly get new people in tune on the same language when you have a tool like this.
Yeah. All right, that wraps things up. Everyone have a good day. And I have to actually eat lunch and get in a car and travel. So later today, tonight, or tomorrow, you'll get the stuff with the recording link.
all right. I'll be sending you an email, and you have a lifelong student. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. All right.
So long, everybody.
Thank you, Nick.
Bye.
All right, bye.